Park Associati is an architecture, urban planning, and design studio founded in 2000 by Filippo Pagliani and Michele Rossi, which since its founding has developed out-of-the-box ideas and stimuli from its open design methodology. Across the many different scopes, the firm is driven by embracing listening, intuition, and experimentation to challenge common typologies and find solutions that work best for different stakeholders. And today I am joined by Park Associati's Head of Research, Matteo Arietti, with whom we will converse about humanities and architecture. So thank you so much, Matteo, for being here.
Thank you for having us.
It's our pleasure. Will you first tell us about your firm, your values, and also the journey?
Yeah, of course. So as you said, the practice was founded in the year 2000 by Filippo Pagliani and Michele Rossi. And well, basically our first home was a small apartment, which was then converted into an architectural studio. We basically had a few workstations, a model room, a small kitchen, and that's it. And this is where the first residential and international projects were done, especially the very first one, the Credit Suisse branches in Milan, Frankfurt, Munich, and Berlin. And yeah, in these early years, we basically filtered what was coming from the outside, developed the ideas, and basically embrace these influences to build our method, our culture of design, which is based on dialogue, and it is actually characterizing us still these days. So having then evolved and grown as a practice, well, we moved in another place where we are working now. We are basically in a old telephone factory that has been converted in our practice. And it has been expanded again in 2018 and 2022 because it's a really big time to be here because we're growing significantly. So now we can count on a team of around 80 people, while in 2013, when we moved here, we were just 20. To go on with what we do, well, we are active not just in the field of architecture. We work in urban planning, landscape design, interior design, and product design too. And I would define our approach as analytical, practical, and tailor-made, but at the same time, we care about tradition and we are able to generate new ways to design, and we can focus on new linguistic codes through our process that you mentioned before. We are really attached to these three keywords that we use to guide our design, which are, well, listening, intuition, and experimentation, as you said. But the practice is not just about architecture and design. We are also active on collateral activities too. We are trying to be as open as we can to our community. And this is why we have renamed our ground floor as Park Hub, which is basically an eclectic space that we use, not just a workplace, but we intended it as a flexible box to allows us to host exhibitions and events and to really get in touch with other influences than architecture, such as science, such as arts, such as photography, and you name it, so on. And yeah, that's because basically we really value what we are surrounded by, and we have basically a deep trust in the people who work with us and around us. Our community is really important. We are trying to be open to the city of Milan, even because we think that our strength really relies on people, and especially on our co-workers who are the real strength of what we do. And if we are able to, to submit really good projects, is because we are working with such talented creatives. I would wrap up with what we are trying to do with research. We are finally accountable of about the proposals that we do, that we incorporate in our design, and this is basically something that we have inherited by starting this research group that we named Park Plus, which is basically a unit that sides the design teams and helps them, try to find new workflows and new ideas and new innovation principles. Park Plus really taps into a decades-long experience of the practice and the people that are working with us. And it's dedicated to operate synergistically with them in order to find, fresh opportunities, to learn about new strategies and to imagine new concepts. So it's really fun to be here and to work as an architect here. And with this R&D program, we're really trying to, make innovation count and drive changes.
That's amazing. Since you happen to trust and involve a lot of people and the interaction between people, we thought that it's fitting to talk about humanities in architecture. So why are humanities important in architecture, and what do we need to understand about it?
Well, it's a tough question. So I will answer as Matteo now, because I think that it's a really personal one. I think that architecture has always been a discipline with a leg into techniques and a leg into humanities. And its strength is really relying to this cross-disciplinarity. I think that nowadays something bizarre is happening, which is stripping architecture of its humanistic roots, while empowering more and more the more technical aspects of the matter. And well, I think that architects are more like design facilitators than they are design experts, let's say. Our profession should remain as flexible as possible, in my opinion, because this is a trait that we can actually use to stay relevant in this super fast-paced evolving world, let's say. And yeah, I think that if there's a discipline that it's the witness of the passing of time, it is, together with art, of course, it's architecture. So yeah, buildings, urban space, houses, offices, museum, infrastructures are like the real concretization of their relative zeitgeist, the spirit of their time, the witness of their culture. So I think that we should try to internalize that architects need to be profoundly attached to their culture. They really have to know it to propose like well-functioning projects, or to propose change if they understand that this culture is not working anymore and it needs to go in another direction. So yeah, this is why humanities are such an important feature of architecture to me.
That's great. So in what ways also can we promote and preserve humanities?
Yeah, I think by expanding as much as we can our field of exploration, and teaching people that architecture, it's not just about design, a building or an object or anything that comes up to your mind, but it's really about decoding a process, which is the design process. And I mean, this is not about the almighty architects that can like design everything, but it's about learning to move through the process of solving a problem. Sorry, that to me it's really like navigating from crisis to crisis to finally find the correct solution for the task that you have been assigned. So I think that humanities are really vital to this process because they nurture your culture, as we said before, and your creativity too. I mean, to be an effective problem solver as an architect should be, I think that you need to be rigorous, but you really need to not lose your creativity, the sparkle of your creativity. And yeah, what is creativity? So I know that is a really tough question to answer, so I can give you just my point of view on this. I think that creativity is the capacity to anticipate the wants and need of people, and to show them how to, let's say, to show them that there's a new, a legitimate, fun, and functional way of make their lives better. And I think that architects should master this talent to promote and preserve humanities in architecture.
That's great. So I think that's how you can connect form and shape, the technical aspect in architecture, history, and also culture. They all come together through architecture, right, and design.
Yeah, yeah, you said an important word that it's history, especially for us. I think that this question is really interesting because we actually started by working a lot on old buildings from the 20th century. Here in Italy, we have an incredible amount of architectural heritage, which is fundamental to reuse. And I think that this word reuse is really what links forms, history, and culture. Because if culture is what you do, and forms is what you see. Basically, I think that reusing history is actually the box that contains both the other two words, and can really create a system around a new way of doing architecture. So we have a lot of experience in this field, so I'll try to give you a hint about the possibilities that we have, but it's really like, you can tackle history from a lot of different points. So we are really expert of the 20th century because we worked a lot on this kind of buildings. So I can give you our perspective of this subject. And I think that the respect for the masters of the 20th architecture is such that when professionals nowadays just think about intervene on a work from the past is like really equal to violence. This is why when you approach a masterpiece such, I don't know, for example, Ville Savoye, you really need to have a philological and a conservative attitude, which bring back the motto as it was where it was. But I think that we should treat the matter of normal building in a different way, because if you apply this attitude to all the heritage that you have, you risk you fall into the risk of historicizing buildings that have a quality, but they have not the status of monument, So I think that there's a possible alternative to this, and it's really vital for us to reuse this heritage, but while trying to apply the theories of critical restoration to today's world, I think that our practice is really good at lending an ear to the work that you actually have to do, the real task that you have to propose, and give a personal reading of the building that we are working on. So this is a result. It's really a dialogue between interpretation of what you need and conservation of what you have. It's really a dialogue between the language of an original author and you, us, I think that we pioneered this concept quite well. We call it hard retrofitting, and it's something that has made, it's actually our manifesto. So we started from that, especially from a really key project, which is La Serenissima, that it's a former Campari building designed here in Milan by the Soncini brothers that we renovated in 2012. But this is just one of the studio's many projects that have contributed to a new outlook on the theme of reuse, imposing actually a new trend on the Milanese real estate investment scene. And I think that this is something really good because reconverting what is already there it's in a circular way, in a resilient way, is not only possible from an architectural identity, as we said before, but it's also maybe one of the most sustainable growth strategies, that it's actually adding value to something that exists by building less.
I really like how you package it in such a way that we can do so much with architecture, but it will be very powerful if also like the public or the audience knows about it and they can amplify it to their day-to-day life, right? So what approaches can help shape or can help the public understand that architecture can do so much?
It's a tough one because we do not have like that good of a reputation as architects, you know. I think that yeah, that's curious because despite being one of the most important industries of our economy, architecture is often underestimated in terms of the impacts, both and good, that it can have on society. And if you carefully think about it, you can realize how mankind isn't detachable from architecture itself. I mean, we can't live without our shelters. But people can't grasp this thought. And I think that the fault is mainly ours, because we lost the central role that we had in the past, because of a false misconception about technicality and how we are not equipped as engineers to deal with it. But I think that to get in touch with people, we should understand that techniques, I mean, doesn't have to be necessarily our main occupation. We should learn about it enough to have a functioning dialogue with the other professional involved into the design process. But that's it. I think that architecture should focus on tectonics, should focus on strategies for adaptation to a changing world, and on environmental responsibility. And that's the challenge for the future, to convince people that we still have something to say about these subjects. But yeah, I mean, the only way to do this is to actually having to say something about it, and to say it in a resonant, proper, and meaningful way to the people around us.
So one of the more recent projects you completed is the Luxottica Digital Factory, right?
Yeah.
Will you tell us more about it and what did you try to achieve through the design?
Yeah, I think that this project is really a hybrid project between reuse and rebuild, you know, as we were saying before. I mean, paying the greatest attention to quality, using technologically innovative materials, and seeking innovative solutions are the digital factory focal points. We took inspiration from Luxottica's identity. Luxottica is a really big corporation that produce everything that has to deal with glasses and sunglasses. We really valued their attention to transparency, and this is the keyword that we use to drive our thoughts during this process. We basically revamped an existing industrial building that was formerly occupied by General Electric, by maintaining the former volume as much as we could. And because the new addition were basically focused on facades and the inside. So the intervention emphasized the building original shapes and lines by eliminating any later internal addition, and by adapting the building to the contemporary standards of safety and sustainability. So basically, we found an excellent reinforced concrete truss structure that we tried to enhance with our design. So we spared it, we didn't demolish it, and we use it to enhance the verticality of the building, especially of the facade. So I think that the result is quite interesting because the casing is really the result of a technological and structural research aimed at providing the most transparency and brightness indoor. So the facades consists of a full height 11 meters glazed structure with vertical blades that remind the visitors of the past structure that we had before. And this transparency, these huge glasses, this transparency is reflected into the internal spaces that are completely redesigned to accommodate a showroom plus some commercial spaces, and of course the digital lab, the Luxottica digital lab at the first floor. So we designed these indoor spaces together with Storage Milano, and we tried to create a hybrid box which combined green leisure and informal meeting areas. You can find a big garden at the ground floor and green patios on the first floor that really helps the building to be perceived as something really well being focused. The project follows as well the LEED quality and sustainable protocol as much of the buildings now. And I think that we are going to be estimated as gold class. I think that the factory is really a project that helped revitalize the whole area. We transformed this suburban environment into a new vibrant vision that is ready to be used by the people from Milan.
That sounds really cool. So lastly, how do you foresee the role of designers changing in the future?
Okay. Okay. Again, in this case, I will answer as Matteo because it's a really personal question. I think that all the super problems that we have in front of us will need architects with an active role if we ever stand the chance to deal with them. So I think that the most defining issue of our time is climate collapse. And I think that architects will play a significant role in this situation. I think that one of the things that will change our role is that we have to become expert of, we should become able to propose new strategies for adaptation to this new normality and that is already around us. And secondly, we will need to deal with the advent of AI and its effects. So I think that, I don't see in a foreseeable future architects being swapped for machine learning or something like that. But I think that we should learn how to control artificial intelligence and use it at our own advantage. And lastly, I think that we should invest in our flexibility, in our professional flexibility. But that's something that every millennial and every Gen Z should do because architect or not, because to stay relevant in this accelerating world, I think that you should be able to learn the basic tools that can guarantee you to accommodate new professional path if it's never needed, So I think that you can accomplish it by understanding how to process the gigantic number of information that you have on the web and to use it at your own advantage. And to do this, I think that, of course, you should cultivate your curiosity and your creativity above everything else.
Perfect. Can't think of a better way to end. Thank you so much for sharing. I think the key takeaway of this session is what you said before, which I think is really cool. Architect is a facilitator more than anything else. We facilitate different dialogues, different stakeholders, also different disciplines. And in order to be able to do that in the long term, we have to be open also to learning new stuff, right? Adopting new technologies, adopting new mindsets. So it really is about becoming open and flexible in order to make relevant changes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having us again. It was a pleasure.